Action.
Go.
My name's Stuart Hanlon. I'm an attorney in San Francisco. I do criminal defense. I've done it my whole life, my legal life. It's 36 years. I got into law out of the 60s and political work I was doing in college with the Panthers and other lefty groups. And I felt people, especially non-white people and poor people, were put in prison for things they didn't do. And even when they did them, they didn't deserve to go to prison. So that's what motivated me in law. And the first case I ever started doing was a Black Panther named Geronimo Pratt, who I started working on in law school. And it took us 27 years, and we finally got him free. He was framed by his own government. And that's kind of been the landmark case for me. It's motivated me what I do. Obviously, I try to make money now. You know, I got a family, I have kids, things have changed. But I still get motivated by that. And to me, criminal law is fighting the state. I mean, the state has always had all these resources. They frame people, cops lie. I mean, people ask me when the police lie, and that's every time they take the witness stand. You know, you can expect them to lie. And that's what got me to help Mac. I mean, Mac Minister, when I met him, he was already in custody. And I read about his case and what was going on in Vegas, where the lawyers there have a reputation for just selling people down the river. And he was getting sold down the river, and after looking at the evidence, I decided he was being framed. I mean, I decided he was innocent. I mean, there was evidence, but it just was a total setup. And the setup continued through the trial. Mac's big problem with me is he couldn't pay me, you know, and we were going to do it really cheap, but he couldn't get any money together. And I never understood why people in the hip-hop world wouldn't help him, but they didn't. And he ended up with these lawyers who took what money he had and just handed him off the last day to some young attorney who didn't know his head from his ass. And he went down, you know, and he's now fighting for his life. Mac is a pretty cool guy, you know. There's a lot of bullshit, but there's a lot of reality to him, and he's in a really tough position, you know. I know his music some, you know, so I like that. He's in a really bad position, so it's hard not to have a lot of bullshit because he's grasping for straws to get help, and I think he's really frustrated that no one helped him in the world he came out of. You know, he helped people, and then when this happened, people ran away from him. And that's was my perception. No one, you know, always somebody, some big name in hip-hop was going to do this, this, and that, and they never did anything. And it really surprised me. And either he was a jerk to those people who was out, or those people were just all about money and bullshit. You know, so I kind of go for the second. I don't think Mac is that big of a jerk, more than most people, you know. And I just, you know, it's a classic case. And you don't want to put everything in terms of race, but, you know, of a black guy getting framed, you know, and something that somebody did, people got killed, but there was no way to believe beyond a reasonable doubt he did it, you know. And he's a good guy, you know, he's funny, he's smart, but he's in a really bad position, and he's locked up for the rest of his life. And when I first met him, he was facing this trial. We knew without the resources to fight it, and it was really scary for him, like anybody would be scared. I mean, you're in prison, you got no money, the lawyers are selling you down the river and you know it, and they want to put you away for the rest of your life. So to say he was scared, was, if he wasn't scared, he would have been nuts. You know, so that fear sometimes made him difficult to deal with, only because he was reaching for straws, you know, and I was his straw, and I tried to help him, but without the resources for us, I mean, I can do free cases in San Francisco, but really cheap. I can't do them in Las Vegas, it's too far away for us, you know. So I really like the guy. I think he's a good guy. I like his music, but I like him more. I think Mac comes from a background where a lot of, you know, a lot of stuff happened that we wouldn't call legal. And he's under the spotlight. You become somebody well known, and you got a big mouth. You better play it safe, you know. And I don't know if he can do that, but he can certainly live a life that doesn't deal with overt criminality as the government defines it, you know. I mean, he just stubbed his nose at the government and think he could get away with stuff. I think he's older now and he's smarter. And you don't put yourself, but I tell everybody, don't put yourself in a position where you can get framed. I mean, when people are on probation or parole, or they're under the view of everybody, you tell them, don't put yourself in that position because anything can happen. I have 19-year-old kids who are on probation and they think they can keep on taking dope. And I say, you're not like everybody else. You're now on probation, you're on parole, you're under a special set of circumstances. And Mac's going to live his life that way for a while if he gets out. You know, I hope he gets out, but I mean, I think he really has to tone it down. Now, I think that's an important aspect when you're under the spotlight. And a lot of people who are well-known think they never got to tone it down. I don't think he had that attitude. I think he never got that big, and his ego isn't that big, you know. I mean, the classic is, I forget his name of this actor now, the guy from the TV series, who is continuing on drugs, you know, parole, probation, you know, and he thinks instead of going in a program, he can hire people at home to rehab him. You know, it's just nuts what people who are rich and powerful they can do. I don't think Mac has that problem. I think he just has to tone. I mean, he's older now, and he's a lot smarter. I mean, I think being in Nevada prisons for a couple of years could tone anybody down. The Geronimo Pratt's case started with the government framing somebody using another Black Panther to frame somebody to lie. So that was my introduction to law, you know, is that the highest level of the government, the head of the FBI, the head of LAPD, framed somebody knowingly and let them lie on the witness stand to convict somebody they didn't like. So that's how I started law, you know. And the whole idea of snitches, you know, prison snitches. People sell, I mean, there's an old lawyer I heard it when I used to go to seminars, this old guy from Kentucky, I forget his name, but he said, when he argues to jurors about snitches, he said you can buy silver, you can buy gold, you can buy cars, you can buy houses, but you can't buy truth. And that's the essence of a snitch. You know, snitches lie, whether it's money or their own freedom, they lie. And in some, like in England, you can't even use them now because they're so unreliable, like especially a jailhouse snitch. Someone says, he said, boop to boop. You know, you cannot talk for 6 months, and if you're important enough a case, you'll have 3 people who said, he told me this. So it's prolific throughout the entire legal system. It's a terrible, I mean, why, you know, we can't pay people to be witnesses, defense lawyers. We can't give people money. Sometimes we give them housing when they come in as a witness. We can't pay them. But the government can pay people not only money, but freedom, you know, and it's totally acceptable. And every now and then there's a push in law to back that off, but the prosecution and the law enforcement are so powerful, they're always going to use that, because that's their main tool in convicting people. So to say it's prolific is an understatement. It's the essence of the prosecutory system to use and fabricate snitches. And that's how our criminal justice system works. I mean, you would not have a criminal justice system if you didn't have snitches. And people that are now called cooperating witnesses, but they're snitches. I mean, the bottom line is someone who gets a benefit to testify, and normally they testify falsely. I'm sure you could have an honest snitch, but I've never seen one. I mean, it's like, you know, and a lot of times jurors, you know, if you had a good lawyer, you can eat these people up, you know, because they're lying, and no one thinks out. I mean, our job is to think out lies beyond the witnesses and take them to facts, you know, keep on taking levels, circles of their story until it falls apart. His lawyers didn't do that, you know, because they didn't have the experience, they didn't have the knowledge, and I don't think they gave a fuck. You know, he was just a case. They got all the money they were going to get, and they're just going to get it over with. And I think that's kind of like criminal law in Las Vegas. I mean, there are some really good lawyers in Las Vegas. There's some great lawyers. But the majority is like everything else in Vegas about money, you know. And so, you know, our practice and a lot of good lawyers I know here and in LA and stuff, it's not all about money. We want to make money, but that's not the reason we became criminal lawyers. You know, we can make a lot. I can make a lot more money, you know, suing people. But there's something really important about criminal law and criminal justice system because it's the battleground of people. It's where the government uses the police to draw the lines of battle in our society and to oppress people. I mean, there's not a coincidence. You sit in courts in San Francisco, San Mateo, the counties around here. Like in San Francisco, we're 7% African American, and the criminal courts are probably 50% black. So either you got 2 conclusions. The black people are more prone to crime, where the system is racist. And I don't buy that any race is more prone to crime. Everybody wants to be good. Everybody wants to work. Everybody wants to raise a family and do well, no matter what their race is. So the reality is, there's no other, I mean, you get it that simplistic. How do you get a 7% population and create 50% of the criminal justice defendants? And it's true everywhere, you know, it's just straight out racism. And I mean, it takes many levels. It's not just the legal system, but it starts with schools and, you know, the training of policemen and the education people get and the opportunities they have. I mean, clearly, when you're poor and you don't have a lot of opportunity and you're faced with $7 an hour McDonald's or dealing crack, I mean, my kids didn't have to take that option. You know, they have lots of options, and they still do. But many of these young people we represent don't have those options, and it doesn't make it right when society criminalizes drugs. But it's much more understandable, and it's part of the racism that permeates the system.
If you had those two lawyers that basically totally didn't give a fuck about Chop sitting here, what kind of advice would you give them?
Get a new job. Do something, you know. If you can't care about the people you represent, don't do it. You're in the line of work where your essence is to care about people. Whether they pay, you know, and most people don't pay me what I ask them for, you know, and they pay some and they can't pay it all, and they try their best, and their families are, you know, I don't represent a lot of rich people. But when you sign on to be their lawyer, this is not a civil lawsuit. You know, this is not over a car accident. This is over people's lives. If you can't stay with it and fight for these people, get a new fucking job. Do something else. But don't become another prosecutor, because they, in essence, become part of the prosecution, because they're co-opted by the prosecution and they're helping convict people. And that's why poor people, and mostly non-white people, but all people who are poor, feel the criminal justice system doesn't work.